I remember somebody coming up to me. My wife was a youth minister in Texas, and they were wanting to know why it never said anything about not having sex before marriage. And the reason she asked this question,
she didn't know the word fornication.
And the reason she didn't know what the word fornication meant is it seems that the church had stopped teaching it, or it stopped using
that word.
And I think ugly words for ugly behaviors are good. We say sleep around, or we say cheat, as if it's a game.
Right. Or we say premarital sex.
Exactly,
which is also a softening.
So what does the church teach on fornication, and why should we agree with it?
Let's talk about it. And I do want to take it from the angle of this expression, premarital sex, which I don't like. I don't like that expression because it makes it sound like premarital versus postmarital. Right? Well, it's wrong before this time. It's fine once you cross this line into married life. I think a better angle is non-marital sex versus marital sex. And the argument that I learned from John Paul II, which I've just carried my whole adult life since I first read it, is that sex has a spousal meaning, a marital meaning, because we are meant to love as God loves. Love one another as I have loved you. This is the summary of the entire gospel. One of the greatest insights of St. John Paul II in his theology of the body is that call to love divinely was chiseled by God right in the sexual difference. A man's body makes no sense by itself. A woman's body makes no sense by itself, seen in light of each other, unless we are blind. Mm-hmm. And the modern world is blind to this. We'll talk about that later, I'm sure. Unless we are blind, we see this design of the Creator, that man is designed to give himself to woman. Woman is designed to open to receive that gift and return that gift. And in the normal course of events, if you receive it as God made it, the union of the two leads to a third. The entirety of the church's teaching can be understood as follows. When you understand the natural reality of sex, meaning receive it from the hand of God, a penis is made for a vagina, and not in isolation, but the male person is made for the female person, and the female person is made for the male person. We go together in such a way that we are designed to generate new life, hence genitals. The entirety of the church's teaching could be summarized. Marriage, sex, and babies go together and in that order. Why do we say that? The natural reality is that sex leads to babies. This is not something to try to X out as the modern world has done. It's something to honor and reverence and to sing God's praises for, because there's nothing as valuable as a human life. When we keep fertility in the equation, the sexual equation, we understand readily that in order for sexual behavior to be responsible, the only ones who should be engaging in sexual behavior are those who have committed themselves to raising the child that might result from the union. And that commitment to that responsible engagement in sexual intercourse, which can result and often does and is meant to in a new life, the commitment to raise that child is called marriage. Sexual intercourse has a marital meaning. Right? So rather than speaking of premarital and postmarital sex, I like to speak of marital and non-marital sex. And I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Years ago, Wendy and I, my wife, we were teaching a marriage prep class. And this was like Sunday after a 3-day weekend into the marriage prep class. So the couples know at this point, I love them. And I'm not just here to beat them over the head. So I can offer a challenge. And I'll usually say, ladies, if you're having sex with your fiance right now, there's one thing you know about him. He's willing to have sex with somebody he's not married to. Is that going to change once you get married? Guys, if you're having sex with your fiance, there's one thing you know about her. She's willing to have sex with somebody he's not married to. Is that going to change?
She's not married to.
You have embraced a non-marital understanding of sex by engaging in non-marital sex. It is impossible to have marital sex, to have it express its true meaning if you are not married. But marriage itself is no guarantee that what you will do between the sheets has a marital meaning. And this is my example here. This woman raised her hand. She says, come on, Christopher, we're getting married in 3 weeks. What's the difference between us having sex now and us having sex then? And I remember it was like one of those aha moments. I was like, exactly. There will be no difference.
Ooh.
And that's the problem.
Yes.
You're having non-marital sex right now, and you are going to bring that non-marital behavior with which you have trained yourself right into your marriage. And there's no sudden magic trick on the wedding night that makes what you're doing marital. You have been, this is John Paul II's language, you've been lying with the language of your body. The body has a language inscribed, chiseled by God right in the body that says, I give myself to you freely. I give myself to you totally. I give myself to you faithfully. And I give myself to you fruitfully. If it is God's will, let there be life. That is the language of the body. That is what sexual intercourse means when you let the body tell the full story. Well, guess what a man and a woman commit to at the altar? The priest asked them, have you come here freely to give yourselves to one another wholeheartedly, totally? They say, yes, we have. Do you promise to be faithful all the days of your life? Yes, we do. Do you promise to receive children lovingly from God? Yes, we do. The very commitment of marriage is then meant to be expressed bodily every time a husband and a wife become one flesh. So I'll say to my audience, I'll say, whether you're married or not, you can answer these questions. If you're not married yet, maybe one day you hope to be married, answer in light of that. If you're a consecrated celibate, you also made vows, answer in light of that. And I'll say to my audience, how many of you want to be faithful to your wedding vows? Everybody's hand goes up. And I say, are you sure? Yeah. Even if it demands great sacrifice, do you still want to be faithful? Yeah. I mean, this is what we want.
Of course.
And then I say, okay, you have just accepted everything the Catholic Church teaches about sex. And I didn't impose it on you. You said you wanted it. And you said you wanted it even if it demands great sacrifice. And I assure you, it will. Because this is what is at stake. Fidelity to the wedding vows. Every time husband and wife become one flesh, they are meant to be expressing and renewing their marital commitment. I give myself to you freely, totally, faithfully, fruitfully. They're meant to be renewing and expressing that commitment with the language of their bodies. So I say to my groups or my audiences, my students, I'll say, how healthy would a marriage be if a husband and a wife were regularly unfaithful to their wedding vows? Terrible.
Yeah.
How healthy would a marriage be if a husband and a wife regularly renewed their wedding vows, and every time they did, they were more committed to them on that day than they were the day before?
That'd be great.
Beautiful marriage. How many people want that marriage? Yeah, that's the kind of marriage I want. You've just accepted everything the Catholic Church teaches about sex, because this is what is at stake. Fidelity to the marital commitment. Sexual intercourse, when we're just reading the language of the body that God has inscribed right in it, has a marital meaning. When we understand that, everything the Catholic Church teaches about sex clicks, begins to make sense. You can't express a marital meaning if you're not married. Right? Getting married, as I said, is no guarantee that you will express a marital meaning,
right?
But it's an absolute prerequisite.
Okay.
Right? So non-marital sex versus marital sex, or even, let's be honest, anti-marital sex. Marital sex is not something you can try.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. Before you go, do us a favor, leave a comment, let us know what you thought of the video, like, and subscribe.